We want to start a new program because it is November. Prelims they give So since prelims are very close by, one of the most important and definite topics that definitely will come in your prelims questions is the most important one, species in use. It deals with all your flora, fauna, endangered species, extinct species, what are the lists of it, which category does a particular species come into. So a lot of questions come on this particular topic, and you might get 1 to 2, or sometimes if the questions are more environmental based questions, then you might land up at 3-4 questions also. So since there is a definite scope, 100% scope of species in use, we have accumulated everything for you so that your journey is going to become more simple. So keeping that in mind, let's move on to what are the species in use in the month of January 2025. Let's start with January 2025. But before I go ahead, there are some things that a student must know, and there are questions which have been asked about that also. So what are the organizations which give this list? And what is the structure of the organization? What do they do? Where are the headquarters? Alternatively, questions will come up a lot. So keeping that in mind, we have prepared notes on that also. So let's start with the first most important organization, which is very important for this is, let's start with CITES, CITES. So CITES, basically you have to understand that CITES, it's a Convention on International Trade, especially in endangered species. That is a full form of it, CITES. Now, about this organization, you have to know some fundamentals and context. So, it was launched in 1973. Force came into 1975. Its headquarters, that is the most important point, Geneva, Switzerland. So that gives a scope of a prelims question. Now, totally 184 countries are there, and India joined in the year 1976. That is one important fact, because we have to think everything in terms of what India is doing. Now, what is the function of it? It basically protects wildlife, animals, plants, but if you observe trade, this part, trade in endangered species is not, it's completely banned. So trade, you can do trading of species but not endangered ones, and creating endangerment for a particular species. So that function is done by CITES, which is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So basically what it does is, it divides the whole thing into 3 categories. So first category is Appendix 1. In Appendix 1, what it does is, highest protection is given to the species which belong to Appendix 1. Okay? What kind of species are pulled into Appendix 1 is those species which are almost about to get extinct. So extinction zone kochenta varaku, extinction. On that, what do they do? Because it stops the trade is completely banned. For example, in India you have tiger, elephant, like that. So Appendix 1 comes under the list 1. Moving on, second category, Appendix 2. Here you can do trading, but it is controlled trading, where they are not about to be extinction, but they are threatened to become extinct. So such kind of things, for example, cobra, that is very important. Next, Appendix 3. Here, protection should be at least given by one country. One country should take the complete responsibility of that particular species in that particular country. So that comes under Appendix 3 category. So CITES control the overall things, but specific target is given to one country. For example, if you take walrus, Canada is a very cold country, walrus, the toothed one, that responsibility is exclusively given to Canada. Like this, the whole CITES divides the whole species into 3 categories, 1, 2 and 3. 1 is for extinct species, Appendix 2 is controlled trade, 3rd, protection at least in one country. So this is what CITES stands for. So whenever I talk about a species in the coming slides, I will be mentioning about CITES and other organizations which work for it. So first thing the student has to know is this. Headquarters, Geneva, Switzerland, that's very important. India joined India 1976. 3 appendix, 1, 2, 3. So 1 for highest protection, 2 for control trade, 3 for protection in at least one country. That's about it. So UPSC ki manaki telvali. This is what you are supposed to know as a UPSC aspirant. Now moving on, WLPA, that is Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Basically, it came into force in 1973. Here they protect wildlife, birds, plants, animals, everything they can convert. Here what do they do? What does this organization do is wildlife protection. It protects the wildlife from what? From hunting, trading as well as exploiting. All these things are taken care by this Wildlife Protection Act, which every country follows. So it was amended in 2002, 2006 and again in 2022. Now this category divides the whole species of flora and fauna into 6 scheduled lists. That is very important. So if you look at it, Schedule 1 talks about highly protected, and if anything is done like hunting, poaching and all these things, they are given severe penalties. That penalties include imprisonment and up to 7 years of imprisonment and also a big fine. So that is about Wildlife Protection Act for Category 1. Category 2, List 2. It is highly protected but no punishments. For example, cobra, python and all these things, but highly protected. This highest exploitation if it is done, then Schedule 1 category. Next. 3 and 4 together comes under moderate protection. For example, hyena and fox. That is 3rd list. 4th list, 3rd and 4th list, medium protection. 5th list, animals that can be hunted. So if they're kept hunted, someday it will become extinct. So those who are allowed to be hunted, they should be limitedly hunted. For example, crow, mice and all these things. And finally, 6th, protected plants come into the 6th list of the Wildlife Protection Act. Example, blue vanda. Now, they also look into the sanctuaries, the national parks, the conservation reserves and the community reserves. All these things are also taken care of under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Now, this has to be done by someone. So here, they form NBW, that is National Bureau for Wildlife, and it is headed by the Prime Minister. PM takes care of all those things. Similarly, you have State Board for Wildlife, that is taken care by the CM, Chief Minister of that country, of that particular state. Next, there is a control board, WCCB, as well as Chief Wildlife Warden is also there for it. So all these guys together will take care of the Wildlife Protection Act. So a student must to know about all these things. Now, any crimes on this, WCCB takes care. Okay, to protect them, the warden is there. Any decision, the PM will take care at national level and CM will take care at state level. So wildlife boards are very, very important. So you might be asked a question based on the polity part or the list part or what is the functional part. So any of these things can be done. So Aparanga, this is very, very important. Next, moving on, the most important and the most famous IUCN. International Union for Conservation of Nature as well as Natural Resources. All of them come into the picture. So in this, if you look at it, it was formed in 1948 and the headquarters is very important, Gland in Switzerland. It's actually near a lake called Gland. Gland Lake Pakkan Tamata. Andike Gland place Peru. So 1969 India joined. Totally 1400 plus people will be working, 1400 different organizations, governments, NGOs, scientists, all of them work. So more than 1400 plus are there in this global organization. This is the global protection center for all the species around it. So what it does, it conserves biodiversity, it takes care of scientific data, and it makes sure that countries are following good governance and gives government advices, and it identifies the endangered species and makes sure that they are sustainably developed and the species are protected in that particular regions. That is the functions of this IUCN. Now this also classifies everyone into what does it do apart from that? It creates the red list, that means extinction list, which species are becoming extinct. Next, it advises UNEP's CITS and it protected areas it covers, and it does research as well as networking for all the countries. That is a function of what IUCN does. Now this also has a beautiful list. The list is very important because that keeps coming in when I am dealing with all the species one by one. LC, least concern, safe, it means okay. NT, not threatened yet, so lion. VU means vulnerable. Vulnerable means high risk, especially in the wild. If it is present in the wild, there is a high risk for it. It can be through hunting, poaching or trading. Any of these mechanisms can work. Next, endangered, very high risk, that is a major point. Next, CR, critically endangered, means extreme risk is there for this category. EW, extinct in the wild. That means these things, if they are present, they are wild, you will not even find them. So the only way you can do that is you have to protect them in captivity. So you have to protect them, you have to jail them, and you have to make sure they are not getting extinct. That is the category EW. And EX means extinct, they are already gone. So these are the categories which are very, very important from IUCN list. So very famous is blue list, red list, and red list is covered clear, made by the IUCN. So as a UPSC student, you must definitely know about these three categories. Sites, number one, very important. Next, WLPA, Wildlife Protection Act. And third, IUCN, what does it do and what are the lists? IUCN decides LC, NT, VU, EN, CR, EW, NAX. Now, for example, if you look at Bengal tiger, that is an endangered species. IUCN gives that name. Asiatic lion, it comes under endangered species. Dolphin, extremely endangered. Now, Indian bustard, critically endangered. All such things, list will be provided by the IUCN. Similarly, if you look at WPA, PLA, 6 lists, highly protected, plus penalties. High protection is required, medium protection is required, animals which can be hunted, and protected plants. All these come, and this data is given by WLPA. Now, national parks, everything, sanctuaries, conservation reserves, all these come under the Wildlife Protection Act. And finally, CITS, Convention on General Trade, endangered species trading, all these things, again it is divided into Appendix 1, Appendix 2 and Appendix 3. So highest protection for given for extinct, almost extinction and highly threatened species. Appendix 2, controlled trade will be given. So threatened species have to be given. And Appendix 3, protection at least by 1%. So these are all the things that a UPSC aspirant must know before understanding species in use. If you don't understand this, if you don't get this information, there is no point doing it because you will not be able to answer the question. So keeping that in mind, these are all the three categories: CITES, CITES, WLPA, Wildlife Protection Act, and finally the IUCN. Now that you know all these things, let's move on to the January's species which were in news in 2025. So starting with the first species for today, Pallas cats. This is the beautiful cat which is there. Now, what is important is not all the information is important, but only some of the information is useful for your parents. So keeping that in mind, let's start. First photographic evidence of the elusive Pallas cat was taken in Himachal Pradesh. That's the first point. Now, what is its appearance? If you see, short legs, chota legs, but full fur. Short legs and dense fur for stocky appearance. Now, the best part about this is coat coloration it does. Flat ears set on sides for supreme camouflage. Camouflage means hiding. It changes its colors. That's the beauty of it. And black spots on forehead. Sometimes they ask questions on, they've asked questions on species and its extra features. So for example, in this case, Pallas cat, it can do camouflage. We have heard about plants, lizards doing camouflage, but cats camouflage, we don't know. Therefore, Pallas, and why it is very important, Himachal Pradesh mein, they took out the first photograph. So small cats mein jo big features nahi hai, din ko nahi. Therefore, it becomes very important. So what category? Now, where do you find this? Majorly, it is found in Mongolia, China, and Tibetan Plateau. So extreme climate, weather low, its habitat is there. Basically, Central Asia from Caspian Sea through Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Northern India to Central China, Mongolia, and Southern Russia. This is the range in which you can find these beautiful cats. Pallas cats. Totally 16 countries, its range is there, with core populations in Mongolia, China, as well as Russia. Now, this is one thing. Now, the most important thing is this. What is the status of this particular cat? Why this has come in news? So, according to CITS, it comes under Appendix 2. As I told you, what is Appendix 2? As I gave here, Appendix 2 will be controlled trade. It is almost coming to threatened one. That is the reason why it is coming under Appendix 2. Now, if you look at that, next, Wildlife Protection Act, it comes under Schedule 1, therefore it is highly protected. Next, IUCN, it is least concern. According to IUCN list, it is least concern. So that is the reason. So you have to keep it in. So trade is happening. Therefore, it becomes protected act. It comes under the WPLA as Schedule 1. That's the most important point. So this is about Pallas cats. Like that, each category you have to understand the habitat, you have to understand the features, and you have to understand the status of that particular species. Unless there is no news about it, it will not come into the news. If it's coming into the news, it automatically becomes very important. So in January, the first species is about Pallas cats, Appendix 2, Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1, and IUCN is very, very important for prelims basically. A lot of questions come from this only. So it's of least concern. Next, in news, why it is there? Why it is in news? Because next one, butterfly banded royal. Butterfly banded royal. This has a different name in India. So why it is in news? It was found recently in Tripura, achieved a significant milestone. This is the beautiful butterfly we are talking about, the royal butterfly. So it is the first ever recording of banded royal butterfly. It is called Rachana Jalindra Indra. It's a rare species in Sefajala Wildlife Sanctuary. That is very, very important. So this becomes a scope of a huge prelims question coming from this one. This banded royal butterfly, its name is very, very important. Rachana, just remember Rachana for easy thing. Jalindra Indra. Where did you find it? In Sefajala Wildlife Sanctuary. Where is it? It is in Tripura. So heavy scope for prelims question coming from this. So this is how this beautiful butterfly looks. Now why it is important? Next category. The butterfly has 3 subspecies in India. However, the latest findings adds Tripura to the known distribution range of new species. Now these are the 3 species we are talking about. Very, very important for prelims. So 3 species, 3 stars. These are all the subspecies which are involved in this. Rachana Jalindra Makanita, Rachana Jalindra Indra, Makanita, and Tarpina. Rachana Jalindra. So Rachana Jalindra is referred to a butterfly. That is what the question might be in UPSC. So therefore, this Rachana Jalindra Anangane, you have to go to the butterfly part. Okay. So what are the subspecies? They might ask a question on this. This Makanita, Indra, and Tarpina. What are these related to? Question might be asked like that. Okay. So they'll give you a species. They might give you match the following. Such kind of questions can come. So you must be knowing about all these things. What is the significance of this? Richness of Tripura's biodiversity, it is known. And ecological research in that region is actually bringing out a lot of new species which we don't know about. What is the conservation status? It is under Indian Wildlife Protection Act and it comes under Schedule 2. So still not under the IUCN, I believe. So that is a point. Why it is in news? So no IUCN on that, but it is only conservation status comes under Schedule 2. So I don't think there will be a question asked here, but scope of question influences Rachana Jalindra, Rachana Jalindra, Rachana Jalindra. What are the subspecies? Makanita, Indra, as well as Tarpina. They might ask you, they'll give you this list and say, what is it related to? Which species is it related to? So, and they'll give you birds, plants, and animals, and then say which of them. Okay. So, if you know that Rachana Jalindra is related to butterfly, automatically you can give that answer. That's how you have to cast the question. Okay. Subspecies. Next important species which popped up is golden jackal. That's the beauty. Now here, recently noted golden jackals in adapting their changing environment and no longer avoiding humans. Previously, these jackals were only living in the forests. They never tried to humanly interact. But recently, they found that there is a human-wildlife living together. It's like that. So, a symbiotic ecosystem is being created. That is what environmentalists have found. Now, about this, its behavior are predominantly nocturnal by nature. That means during night time, they are very, very active. And peaking at dawn and dusk flow, their activities become very, very high. Size, small size, and do not possess a direct threat to the humans. That is the whole point. Just like Mowgli. Okay, that was wolf. This is fox. That's the only thing. Sorry, jackals. Almost like dogs only. So that's the base point. Now, however, as wild animals, their behavior can be unpredictable, especially if provoked or disturbed. Habitat, that's very important. Terrestrial biomes, deserts or dunes, there you will be able to find like savannas or grasslands, forests, and scrub forests. This is the areas. So habitat is very important. Food habits, 54% animal food and 46% plant food. So it's a combination of omni and carno. Therefore, they might ask a question about golden jackal. Is it completely herbivorous, completely herbivorous, or 50-50? So it is a 50-50 thing. Problem, diseases you will get. Hunting, it has a lot of diseases. It is highly hunted and habitat destruction also happens because of this. Golden jackals play a crucial role in maintaining the biodiversity of especially the mangrove as well as the grassland ecosystem. That is the reason it is very important. It's a part of the biosystem, therefore it is very important. Now, along with species like snakes, monkeys and insects, they contribute to the ecological balance. They play an important scavenging role by eating garbage and animal things around it, especially in towns and villages. Now here the most important part, the conservation status under WLPA, under Schedule 1, IUCN, least concern, CITS, traded, therefore Appendix 2. So these are all scope for prelims questions. So basically I don't think you get a question here because it is least concern, but they might ask you a question on habitats or they will ask you a prelims question because of the human and jackals interactions. So that is the reason that becomes very, very important. So the next important species is Manes indo-burmanica, this beautiful creature. Now here, let's look at it. Researchers from Zoological Survey of India identified a new pangolin species in Arunachal Pradesh. Therefore, this becomes a scope of prelims question called Indo-Burmese pangolin. Manes indo-burmanica, that is a scientific name. So this is a huge scope for prelims question coming from this particular name and place where it was found. About pangolin, appearance covered with hard protective scales like this, these scales, very, very tight, very hard they will be. It's very difficult. Just like the mongoose, no? And the pocolin, this pangolin is very, very important. It is also very nocturnal and it's always alone, solitary. Habitat, forests and grasslands will find it. Next, unique feature, if touched or grabbed, it will roll up completely into a ball. So this gives a huge scope for prelims question coming. Which of the following turn into a ball when touched? Like that. So sharp scales on tail can be used to lash out also. Diet, they are scaly anteaters. That is a major point because of their preferred diet. Now what is the threat for it? The biggest threat for it is being poached because it is a rare animal. Habitat threat, environmental degradation happens. And conservation status is very important. Under WLPA, Schedule 1, therefore highly protected. IUCN Red List, it is endangered. That is a major point. So therefore becomes a heavy scope for prelims question coming from this particular topic. So endangered and the ball part. These two are very, very important for your prelims questions. So that's the feature for it. Next important species which is in news this year is in January, golden-headed cisticola. This is the beautiful bird. So beautiful it is. Now why is it in news? Golden-headed cisticola was recently spotted for the first time in Matiketan Shola National Park, Idukki, in southern Western Ghats. So scope of prelims is very much. Which national park? Shola National Park. What was found? Golden-headed. The head of it is gold in nature. Cisticola. Remember Coca-Cola, cisticola. Found where? In Shola. Make it simple. Okay. So all these signs are, if you remember this, it is golden-headed cola found in Shola. Easy to remember. Prelims ke liye very, very important. So where is cola found? It is found in Shola National Park in Idukki. That is very important. Now about golden-headed cisticola, habitat grassland in mountain ranges. Distribution is Australia and Asian countries. In India, you found it in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and northern Kerala. IUCN status, it is least concern. So that is a standard of it. So that's the point. So species in January, which has scope of getting questions, I have mentioned. So the IUCN status and its habitat sometimes, and if there is a special feature of it, that's very important. So where is it found? For example, here it is found in Matiketan Shola National Park. So it's sometimes it becomes students to remember Matiketan, Idukki. Therefore, just remember Shola Cola. So cisticola is found in Shola. Like that, you please remember them because a lot of species remembering becomes difficult. You have to always find a shortcut to remember that. So this is about your January species in news. We already done January month, IPND. So let's do species in news in February 2025. So notes is very important. Scope of 1 or 2 prelims questions coming from this. So let's observe this. So the first beautiful thing, which is olive ridley turtle, very important, because too many articles on olive ridley turtle. So it's a 16-year study from 2008 to 2024 by Dakshin Foundation, IISc Bangalore, and State Forest Department. India's sea turtle populations. Basically, this is primarily very important for your UPSC exam. Let's look at the features of it. It's the smallest sea turtle, therefore prelims question. With olive colored shell. If you observe this, olive colored shell, that's the beauty of it. Usually it is green in color, but this is olive in color. Weighing about 35 to 50 kgs. Now found in tropical as well as subtropical waters of the Indian, Pacific as well as Atlantic Oceans. Basically, a lot of nesting happens. All of them come together, especially in nesting sites in India, in Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh as well as Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It's omnivorous and feeds on jellyfish, crustaceans and algae. This is very important. Algae part is very important, playing a crucial role for marine ecosystems. So that is a major point. So you have to remember tropical and subtropical. So that gives a scope of prelims question. Which states do you find this? Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh as well as Andaman Nicobar. Is it omnivorous or not? So that is another thing. And its basic food is jellyfish. So next, about the study, stable or growing population, olive ridley numbers remain steady and rising despite lot of missed aribadas. Record nesting events, Odisha's Rushikulya Rukri saw 6.5 lakh turtles nesting in days. So that is very important scope for prelims question. So they'll ask you, Rushikulya Rukri, in which state is it? So it is Odisha. Climate change concerns, rising temperatures has actually brought a skew sex ratio between the female turtles and the male turtles. So that becomes a big problem to maintain the stability point. Now, expanding green turtle population, growth in Lakshadweep leads to seagrass overgrazing and ecological shifts. That is a big problem we have, overgrazing. Now, leatherback recovery, nesting in Andaman and Nicobar risen post-tsunami with migrations to Madagascar, Mozambique as well as Australia. So, scope of prelims question is not there here, but this is the major part. Huge amount, 6.5 lakh turtles. That's the best part. Next, conservation programs, Operation Olivia. So they might ask you a question. Operation Olivia is related to what? Olive ridley turtles on Indian Coast Guard to protect the turtles from illegal poaching as well as fishing hazards. Next, turtle excluded dividers, TEDs, mandated in trawlers to reduce bycatch mortality. Next, community-based conservation, involvement of local fishing communities in protecting nesting beaches. And IOC Marine Turtle Memorandum of Understanding has been signed with promoting regional cooperation for turtle conservation. So these are all the conservation programs. So they would ask you about Operation Olivia and turtle excluded devices. Maximum, these are the two scope of prelims questions which can come from this particular topic. Next important topic, important species, blue-cheeked bee eater. So the cheek is blue, but it eats the bee. First breeding site of blue-cheeked bee eater. The scientific names are very important. Merops periscus, very important for prelims. It's found in Andinvilla, Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu. Appearance, shimmering green plumage, distinctive blue cheek patch, long tail streamers. So this long tail, blue cheek, you see this blue cheek and the beak. And what they do, they eat the bees. So there is a scope of prelims questions coming from this. What is the nature of this blue cheeked bee eater? Global range, it breeds in Nile Delta, Pakistan, Iran as well as Africa. So these are the growing areas. Breeding behavior observed in burrows along salt pans with population increasing from 28 to 48 birds. That's a very good sign. Breeding season active throughout the year except February. So IUCN status is very important. It is least concern. So scope of prelims question. So they might ask you a match the following and say which of them is least concern. So keep ready for that. Next, loggerhead sea turtles. If you observe this, recently a report in Nature presents loggerhead turtles whose Earth's magnetic field is a map to our compass for navigation. Families Chelonidae found across global oceans, commonly seen in Atlantic, Pacific as well as Indian Oceans as well as Mediterranean Sea. So this the magnetic field says that loggerhead turtles they are like compass. So this gives a scope of this question. So that one is loggerhead sea turtles, very important. Now if you observe, it's omnivorous, preference is bottom dwelling invertebrates, and IUCN status vulnerable. Therefore gives a huge scope of this question coming about this. The Wildlife Protection Act, it comes under Schedule 1, so highly protected, as I told you in the video itself. Trade regulation, protected under CITES, Appendix 1, therefore highly, very, very important for your prelims questions. Because it is Schedule 1, vulnerable, and trade regulation, it is highly protected, therefore punishments can also be done. Next. Loggerhead turtles undertake extensive migrations covering thousands of kilometers, constantly return to their original feeding and nesting grounds. Their ability to retain magnetic signatures, that is a beautiful point, for navigation strengthens the theory that other migratory species may also rely on Earth's geomagnetic field for orientation. Therefore, because it relies on magnetic field, this loggerhead turtles becomes primary important because it is a special feature. Therefore, it becomes very important for a prelims question coming from this particular topic. So, moving on, Hangul deer is also very important. So, study by CSR CCMB team was done, minimizing human disturbances to aid population recovery of this endangered Hangul deer in Himalayas. It's endangered status, therefore very important for your prelims questions. Where do you find it? In the Himalayas. Next, state animal of Jammu and Kashmir. That gives a more important scope for prelims question coming. Primary location, Dachigam National Park near Srinagar and Jammu and Kashmir. So habitat type, dense riverine forests, high altitude meadows and mountain slopes at elevation ranging from 1800 to 3500 meters. That means 18 kilometers, 1.8 kilometers to 3.5 kilometers. Calving, usually one fawn is born after a gestation period of about 8 months. Therefore, very important. You observe this. Gestation periods they don't ask usually, but usually they're concerned with. Now this comes under Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1, IUCN critically endangered. Therefore, heavy scope of prelims question coming from this particular topic. And nocturnal, no. That means it's active during the day sessions. So these are all the major species that were covered in February. So all these 5 species which I have discussed, there's a scope of 1 question coming up, or they can give you a match the following and ask you to solve the issues. Species in use for March month. So first, long-billed vulture, Chips indicus, that is the name. So this is the beautiful figure. So as per recent study, population of the long-billed vulture has seen steady increase. So which is a good thing. Why? Because it is found in India and Southeast Pakistan. IUCN status critically endangered. Therefore, very important for prelims. Behavior, it does lot of sunbathing as an important thermoregulatory behavior because of the heat and all that. Next, smooth-coated otter, which is nothing but Lutrogale perspiculate. So this is that beautiful thing. The Delhi Zoo is said to receive these smooth-coated otters as a part of animal exchange program with Surat Zoo after nearly 2 decades. So prelims question. Distribution found across Southern Asia. IUCN status vulnerable. Therefore, this becomes a huge state for prelims question coming in. Wildlife Protection Act 1972 status and the Schedule 1. That means it is highly protected. Appendix 1, highly protected, CITS and behavior. Strong swimmers often hunting in groups and adopting V formation with fishing upstream. Next, Fijian iguanas, Brachyphyllus witness. So this is that bully kind of thing. So as per recent study, the ancestors of Fijian iguanas journey near 8,000 kilometers across Pacific Ocean from the Americas by rafting on floating vegetation. So that is the context. So distribution, it is endemic to Fiji, only in dry forest it is found. And islands are Yadua Taba, Monrika as well as Makwata. IUCN status critically endangered according to site status, Appendix 1. That means no international trade is necessary. So very important for prelims. Next, behavior, arboreal, tree dwelling, nocturnal tendencies, often hiding during the day and avoiding predators. That is the main thing that they are looking into. Next, gangetic dolphin. It is called Platanista gangetica. Endemic to Ganga Brahmaputra river, therefore very important for prelims. Classified as endangered under the IUCN Red List, Schedule 1 of the WTO Act of 1972. Indicator species for river health, the maximum number are found in Uttar Pradesh, followed by Bihar, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Rajasthan as well as Madhya Pradesh. So these are the beautiful creatures. So scope of prelims is only Ganga Brahmaputra, that is in the heavy scope. Next, Platinista gangetica minor, like the walrus kind of thing. Indus River dolphin it is called. It is found in Indus Basin, Bias River, Punjab, classified as endangered. Prelims scope under Schedule 1 of the WP Act, mainly found in Punjab. Therefore, scope of prelims is this. Next, hotspots, high dolphin density areas. Chausa Manihar stretch, Bihar, 590 km stretch with an encounter of 2,220 dolphins per kilometer. Next, Manihari, Bihar to Rajmahal, Jharkhand, encounter rate of 2.75 dolphins per kilometer. Next, Bihar overall encounter rate of 1.62 dolphins per kilometer attributed to deeper water as well as confluences of Gagahara, Gandak, Kosi as well as Son rivers. Next, cold spots, lower no dolphin areas, Narora to Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh, 360 km stretch with an encounter of only 0.1 dolphins per kilometer. Next, Farrukhabad Kannauj stretch, identified as cold spot between Narora as well as Kannur barrages. Other cold spots are Yamuna River, Kaushambi Chitrakot, Sharda River at Pilbit, and Rapti River, Balrampur, Siddharth Nagar. These are the areas where you can find these dolphins with respect to cold. So these are the important species from the March month. You will get one prelims question, maximum 2. So keep ready with the information. So April 2025 lo species in news endo search chuddam. First important news, as I said, video starting lo you have CITES valadi, Wildlife Protection Act as well as IUCN. So digitally and critically endangered ante entity, Apex 1 ante entity, Schedule 1 ante entity, all the video is provided in the starting of it. So keep revisiting that because that is how you get questions in prelims. So the first beautiful creature of today is damselfly of Wayanad. It's called Euphia wayanadensis. This is a new species which has been found out. New species of damselfly discovered in Wayanad, Kerala. This is the beautiful species which they found out. It's a fly. This basically it is active during the day ante poddina chaala manchiga untadi and monsoon seasons lo manchi active ga untadi. Idi forest flowing streams lo bhayankaranga active ga untadi. It is identified by a long black hind wing ante enakala idi mata. This wing bhayankaranga untadi. So features meeda adige question untadi prelims ki. Broad humeral stripes on males and distinct male genital features, especially for males mata. So itlantidi. So features meeda adige chance takkuva, but IUCN status is very important. So IUCN red list lo conservation status చూసుకుంటే not yet assessed by the IUCN red list sites కానీ దాని మీద ఇంకా చెప్పలేదు. But since it's a new species which has been found in India, scope of prelims questions భయంకరంగా ఉంటుంది. New species which has been found. ఆ పరంగా this article, this point is very important. Next, painted lady butterfly Vanessa cardiui. ఇది మాట butterfly. So recent study ఏం చెప్పింది దీని గురించి? Revealed that painted lady butterflies have different migratory patterns than birds. Birds కంటే ఈ butterflies కి migratory patterns ఎక్కువ అని చెప్పడం జరుగుతుంది. సో దాని గురించి గ్లోబల్లీ ఎక్సెప్ట్ ఇన్ అంటార్టికాలో ఉండదు, సౌత్ అమెరికాలో ఈ రెండిట్లో ఇట్స్ అవైలబిలిటీ ఇస్ నాట్ దేర్ ఆర్ మైగ్రేషన్ ప్యాటర్న్ ఇస్ నాట్ దేర్. సో ఈ స్ట్రాంగ్ ఫ్లయింగ్ స్పీషీస్ మైగ్రేట్స్ 8 to 10 generations కవరింగ్ టోటలీ 15,000 kilometers. గ్రాస్ ల్యాండ్ నుంచి డెజర్ట్ వరకు అన్నింటిలో బ్రతికేస్తుంది. ఇది కూడా దీని కన్జర్వేషన్ సిస్టమ్ ఇంకా రెడ్ లిస్ట్లోకి రాలేదు అండ్ ప్రొటెక్షన్ యాక్ట్ కింద రాలేదు. బట్ ఇది మైగ్రేటరీ ప్యాటర్న్స్కి వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో దెర్ మైట్ బి అ క్వశ్చన్ విచ్ ఆఫ్ ద ఫాలోయింగ్ హ్యాస్ హెవీ మైగ్రేటరీ ప్యాటర్న్స్ అని క్వశ్చన్ అడగచ్చు. దేర్ ఫోర్ దీనికి స్కోప్ ఆఫ్ ఫిలిమ్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ కెన్ కమ్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ద మైగ్రేటరీ ప్యాటర్న్స్ దాని మీద. అండ్ ఇది అంటార్టికాలో ఉండదు, సౌత్ అమెరికాలో ఉండదు. దట్ ఈస్ అ స్పెషల్ ఫీచర్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్. సో దిస్ ఇస్ ద బ్యూటిఫుల్ Vanessa cardiui lady butterfly. That's another thing. Next, Russell vipers, Dubois russei. Idi mata dangerous idi Russell vipers. Recent study, local climate can be used to predict the venom characteristics of Russell's viper. It's a viper, therefore obviously it's very important and very dangerous also. Helping clinicians to provide targeted therapies for snake bite victims. Idi ఇది ఒకసారి కొట్టిందంటే 3-4 minutes 1 hour లోపల చచ్చిపోతాడు. సో అందుకే వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో ఈ డెజర్ట్స్లో ఎక్కువ దొరుకుతూ ఉంటుంది ఇది రసల్ వైపర్స్. సో ఈ రసల్స్ వైపర్ 40% of the snake bite deaths in India, therefore very important. The living patterns are basically in South as well as Southeast Asia. ఇది ఎక్కడ ఓపెన్ గ్రాసీ ఏరియాస్ అండ్ గ్రోస్ అప్ టు 1.5 meters. 1.5 meters and active at dusk, dawn and dusk. It is known for distinctive reddish brown spots and triangular head. అది బేసికల్గా ఇంట్లో ఉన్న ఫీచర్. It has a triangular head. ఓకే, అండ్ స్పాట్స్. ఈ దానికి రసల్ వైపర్ని అలా గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. సో IUCN ఇట్స్ లీస్ట్ కన్సర్న్ స్టేటస్ బట్ వెరీ డెడ్లీ స్నేక్, దేర్ఫోర్ చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ బికాస్ ఇట్స్ వైపర్. నెక్స్ట్, వైట్ రంప్డ్ వల్చర్ జిప్స్ బెంగాలెనిస్. ఇది మాట. సో వాట్ డస్ ఇట్ డూ? దీంట్లోనే ఫీచర్స్ ఏంటో చూద్దాము. బ్లాకిష్ ప్లమేజ్ ఉంటుంది, వైట్ నెక్ రఫ్ ఉంటుంది, రఫ్ లాగా ఉంటుంది అన్నమాట, వైట్ నెక్ రఫ్. వైట్ ప్యాచ్ ఆన్ ఫెదర్స్, ఫెదర్స్ మీద వైట్ ప్యాచెస్ ఇఫ్ యూ అబ్జర్వ్, అండ్ లోవర్ బ్యాక్. డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ పాకిస్తాన్, ఇండియా, బంగ్లాదేశ్, నేపాల్, భూటాన్ as well as మయన్మార్లో దొరుకుతుంది. ఇట్స్ హ్యాబిటాట్ ఇస్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఓపెన్ కంట్రీ నియర్ హ్యూమన్ హ్యాబిటేషన్ అండ్ ఆఫెన్ సీ నియర్ కార్కసెస్ అండ్ గార్బేజ్ టంప్స్. వల్చర్ కదా, అక్కడే ఉంటుంది బేసికల్గా. డెడ్ థింగ్స్, గార్బేజెస్ దగ్గర ఎక్కువ దొరుకుతుంది. థ్రెడ్స్ ఏంటంటే డైక్లోఫెనాక్ పాయిజనింగ్ భయంకరంగా జరుగుతుంది. వెటనరీ డ్రగ్ టాక్సిక్స్ ఫర్ వల్చర్స్ ఇవ్వడం జరుగుతుంది ఈ వల్చర్స్ చెప్పడానికి, అండ్ ట్రేడింగ్ గురించి చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ అయిపోతుంది. దేర్ఫోర్ ప్లిమ్స్కి డైక్లోఫెనాక్ పాయిజనింగ్ వల్ల చనిపోయే విచ్ స్పీషీస్ ఈస్ ప్రొవైడెడ్ విత్ డైక్లోఫెనాక్ పాయిజనింగ్. సో దట్ ఈస్ యువర్ వైట్ రంప్డ్ వల్చర్. ఓకే, దాని సైంటిఫిక్ నేమ్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో స్కోప్ ఆఫ్ ఫిల్మ్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ కెన్ కమ్ ఫ్రమ్ హియర్ బికాస్ ఇట్స్ హ్యూమన్లీ పాయిజన్. కన్జర్వేషన్ స్టేటస్ IUCN క్రిటికల్లీ ఎండేంజర్డ్. CMS అపెండిక్స్ 1 కింద వస్తుంది, WPS షెడ్యూల్ 1 కింద వస్తుంది. దట్ మీన్స్ దిస్ ఇస్ హైలీ ఇంపార్టెంట్, హైలీ ప్రొటెక్టెడ్, హైలీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ అండ్ రెడ్ లిస్ట్ కింద వచ్చేసింది. దేర్ ఫోర్ హెవీ స్కోప్ ఆఫ్ అ ప్రిలిమ్స్ క్వశ్చన్ కమింగ్ ఇన్. అందుకే 3 stars పెట్టి ప్రిలిమ్స్ అని రాస్తున్నాను. వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ బికాస్ రెడ్ లిస్ట్, అపెండిక్స్ 1, షెడ్యూల్ 1. సో దీని డీటెయిల్స్ అట్ ద స్టార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద వీడియోలో మీకు దొరుకుతాయి. సో చెక్ ఇట్ అవుట్. నెక్స్ట్, ఇండియన్ లాంగ్ బిల్డ్ వల్చర్ జిప్స్ ఇండికస్. లాంగ్ బిల్డ్ వల్చర్ ఇది. ఇందాక వేరే వల్చర్, ఇది లాంగ్ బిల్డ్ వల్చర్. లార్జ్ వల్చర్ విత్ పేల్ బాడీ, డార్క్ ఫ్లైట్ ఫెదర్స్, స్లెండర్ బిల్ ఉంటుంది దానికి. సో ఇందాక దానికి వైట్ ప్యాచెస్, బట్ దీనికేమో డార్క్ ఫ్లైట్ ఫెదర్స్ ఉంటాయి ఇట్లాంటివి. సో ప్రైమరీ ఫౌండ్ ఇన్ పెనిన్సులర్ ఇండియా. హ్యాబిటాట్స్ ఏమో ఓపెన్ ఏరియాస్, నెస్టింగ్ క్లిఫ్స్ అండ్ టాల్ ట్రీస్ మీద కనపడుతుంది. థ్రెట్స్ ఏంటిదంటే క్యాటస్ట్రోఫిక్ డిక్లైన్స్ భయంకరంగా తగ్గిపోయినాయి డ్యూ టు డైక్లోఫెనాక్ పాయిజనింగ్ అగైన్ అండ్ లీడింగ్ టు కిడ్నీ ఫెయిలియర్ ఆఫ్టర్ కన్జ్యూమింగ్ కంటామినేటెడ్ కార్సోసిస్. చాలా చెత్త తినేసి చచ్చిపోతున్నాయి, అందుకే వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. కన్జర్వేషన్ స్టేటస్ IUCN CR అపెండిక్స్ 1, షెడ్యూల్ 1. సో దిస్ క్లియర్లీ షోస్ దిస్ వల్చర్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో అండర్ హై ప్రయారిటీ. ట్రేడింగ్ లిస్ట్లో లేదు, చేస్తే పనిష్మెంట్స్ అండ్ ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్. దేర్ ఫర్ హెవీ స్కోప్ ఆఫ్ అ ప్రిలిమ్స్ క్వశ్చన్ కమింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ టాపిక్ ఆల్సో. సో ఈ 2 వల్చర్స్ మీద ఎక్కువ కాన్సన్ట్రేట్ చేయండి. దట్ ఈస్ అ థింగ్ ఫర్ ఇట్. నెక్స్ట్, రైనోసరస్. అసలు ఇది చాలా రోజులు చూసి నేషనల్ కౌన్సిల్ ఆఫ్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ట్రైనింగ్ NCERT has put on criticism for passing off an African rhinoceros as one-horned. ఇది న్యూస్ బేసికల్గా. సో in 4 mathematics textbooks. So scientific name is Rhinoceros unicorns. Common name Indian rhinoceros, greater one-horned rhinoceros. So ఇది physical features, largest Asian rhino species ఇది. Second largest rhino globally after the white rhino. Single black horn ఉంటుంది both sexes కి for male and female. That might be the scope of films question. Usually 25 to 36 meters long. Thick grey brown skin with deep folds resembling armor plates. Wart-like bumps on shoulders and upper legs. Very little body hair except for eyelashes near fringes and tail brush. So if you observe all these features you can see here in the face. That's very important. News లో ఎందుకంటే రాంగ్ గా ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేశారు, అది పాయింట్. హ్యాబిటాట్ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ తీసుకుంటే అలివియల్ గ్రాస్ ల్యాండ్స్కి ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, వెట్ ల్యాండ్స్ ఎక్కువ కనపడుతుంది. హిమాలయన్ ఫుట్ హిల్స్, బ్రహ్మపుత్ర అండ్ గ్యాంగెస్ రివర్ వ్యాలీస్. మెయిన్ ఇండియన్ పాపులేషన్స్ ఆర్ ఇన్ కాజీరంగా, పోబిటోరో, ఓరంగ్, మానస్, అస్సాం, అండ్ జల్పరా అండ్ గోరుమారా, వెస్ట్ బెంగాల్, తుడ్వా, ఉత్తరప్రదేశ్. దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ ద ప్లేసెస్ వేర్ యూ కెన్ ఫైండ్. సో దేర్ ఫోర్ ఫిలిమ్స్కి చాలా చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్, ఆబ్వియస్ అయిపోతుంది ఫర్ ద రైనోసార్, one-horned rhinoceros. Conservation status IUCN red list కింద ఉంది. Vulnerable, population trend increasing to conservation, and sites appendix 1, therefore highly protected also. Greater than 4,000 India and Nepal. That is the features of this rhinoceros. So these are all the things used in species for April month. So anni revise chestu undandi and keep in touch with the video. Go through the video once and once again. Ilta untunte you will remember things. You will get 1 or 2 definite questions from 2026 prelims upcoming. Now we will do May month 2025. So deentlo May lo oka 4 to 5 unna items. So always concentrate on the IUCN list, CITES and Wildlife Protection Act kinda vachedi. And what are the special features of each of the species? Habitats important. So aparanga manam chuskunte you can expect 1 or 2 UPSC prelims questions for 2026. So let's look at this. Indian grey wolf, idi mata. Its scientific name Canis lupus pallidus. Adi context ఏంటంటే Indian grey wolves in Kadvandwadi, Maharashtra. That's a scope of prelims question వచ్చే chance ఉంటుంది. It is facing a severe threat, especially from the feral dog attacks, with the population dropping from 17 inchi 6 వచ్చేసింది basically గా 16 inchi 6 ఏళ్లలో 17 inchi 6 వచ్చింది. So very dangerous threat, almost extinction level కి వచ్చేసింది India. So found in MP, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat and Maharashtra. Indian wolves live in semi-arid regions, grasslands lo. Dogs nunchi start ayindi but behave very wild, and it balances the ecosystem but face threats from habitat loss, canine distemper, virus, CDV. So CDV becomes a scope of prelims questions. Dog attacks and crossbreeding valla vache problem. Conservation status chuskunte IUCN status, it is classifies according to its risk of extinction batti endangered or vulnerable clause kinda vachindi, therefore goes for prelims question. CITES prakaranga appendix 1, which means it is highly protected, and WPA kinda schedule 1, therefore no trading and all that stuff. So highest level of protection radam anedi very important, therefore this gives a scope of prelims question because it's a threat because of this virus, dog attacks and all these things. Therefore that is the whole point. Next, longest banana, very important, idi mata longest banana. World's longest banana in fact has recently been found in forests of Andaman lo kanpadindi, therefore prelims question ki idi very important. Musa idanmanensis, longest banana found in Andaman. Okay, that is a very beautiful thing. This Musa inandamanensis, it's a rare wild banana from Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Longest fruit bunch at 4.2 meters height. Discovered in 2012, it was recently found in Campbell Bay and it's valued for its genetic use in banana breeding ki chala important. Conservation status critically endangered. Therefore, it is very super important for prelims question. Adi mata. Ekkada kanapadindi IUCN status, length 4.2 meters, Andaman Nicobar Islands. Ivi gurtu pettukunte more than sufficient. Next, new cave dwelling fish. Prawns like unta chudanki, but it's a fish. Schistura tensiclava. It's a cave dwelling fish species discovered in Krem Mabuyan Cave, East Khasi Hills, Meghalaya lo, which adapts to streams overground. So Meghalaya, very important. Where is it found? Krem Mabuyan Cave. Idi ekkadundi ani kuda adikochu. They can ask you what is the place, where do you find this cave? It's found in the Khasi Hills of Meghalaya. So that gives a scope of prelims question. So it's a new cave dwelling where this fish is found. Meghalaya lo, Khasi Hills lo. Name is very important. Krem Mabuyan Cave, East Khasi Hills lo kanapadam jarigindi. So discovered as a new species of troglophile loach. It's a cave dwelling animal. Troglophile loach ante cave dwelling animal. And it is found above the ground. Above the ground becomes the scope of prelims question. Within the ground or above the ground? Above the ground. It is found in cool, fast-flowing stream about 60 meters inside the cave, belonging to Nemachildae family. So this gives a scope of prelims question. What family does this found? So this is belonging to the Nemachildae family, adapted to the dark subterranean environment but can also survive in surface waters. It retains the pigment and eyesight, unlike other cave dwelling fishes which do not retain that. Males are slimmer and irregular patterns and puffier cheeks untadaniki, while females are sturdier, ittanga untai and consistent markings untai. మేల్స్ స్లిమ్ గా ఉంటాయి, ఫీమేల్స్ దొడ్డుగా ఉంటాయి. సో దట్ గివ్స్ అ స్కోప్ ఫర్ ప్రిలిమ్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఫర్ మేల్ వర్సెస్ ఫీమేల్. కన్జర్వేషన్ స్టేటస్ ఇంకా రికగ్నైజ్ కాలేదు, ఇంకా అసెస్మెంట్ ఏం జరగలేదు. దట్ ఈస్ అబౌట్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ స్పీషీస్, ఫిష్ స్పీషీస్. నెక్స్ట్ స్పెసిఫిక్ ఫీల్డ్ క్రికెట్స్. క్రికెట్స్ అంటే తెలుసు, రాత్రిపూట నాయిస్ చేసేవి. Scientists have discovered that Pacific field crickets have evolved to evade parasitoid flies. ఈ ఫ్లైస్ ని అవాయిడ్ చేయడానికి ట్రై చేస్తుంది. దాని సైంటిఫిక్ నేమ్ ఓర్మియా ఆర్కియేరియా. బై మాడిఫైయింగ్ ఇట్స్ మేటింగ్ సాంగ్స్. సో మేటింగ్ సాంగ్, మేట్ అంటే తెలుసు కదా, ఫీమేల్ అండ్ మేల్ మేటింగ్. ఆ సాంగ్స్ ని మార్చారు. Some have become silent due to wing mutation, while others have adapted softer altered calls for mating purposes. సో అది డిస్కవరీ బేసికల్ గా స్కోప్ ఆఫ్ పెసిఫిక్ ఫీల్డ్ క్రికెట్స్. సో దీంట్లో చూసుకోండి, కామన్లీ నోన్ యాజ్ ఆస్ట్రేలియన్ పెసిఫిక్ ఆర్ ఓషనిక్ ఫీల్డ్ క్రికెట్ అంటారు దీన్నే. ఇది ఓషియానా అండ్ కోస్టల్ ఆస్ట్రేలియా ఫ్రమ్ కార్నివరన్ టు వెస్టర్న్ ఆస్ట్రేలియా అండ్ రాంగ్ఫర్డ్ ఈ ఏరియాస్ లో క్వీన్స్లాండ్ దగ్గర ఎక్కువ కనపడతాయి. మోస్ట్ క్రికెట్స్ మేల్స్ అట్రాక్ట్ ద ఫీమేల్స్ బై ప్రొడ్యూసింగ్ కాల్స్ యూజింగ్ ఫైల్ స్క్రేపర్ మెథడ్, అంటే రబ్బింగ్ వన్ స్వింగ్ స్క్రేపర్ అగేన్స్ట్ ది అదర్ ఫీల్డ్. సో దిస్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఈస్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఫర్ యువర్ ప్రిలిమ్స్. ప్రిలిమ్స్ కి మనకి క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటంటే ఫైల్ స్క్రేపింగ్ దేనికి సంబంధించింది అని అడిగే క్వశ్చన్ ఉంటుంది బేసికల్ గా, కాన్సెప్చువల్ కాబట్టి. ఫైల్ స్క్రేపింగ్ ఇస్ లింక్ టు ద క్రికెట్స్. సో ఫైల్ స్క్రేపర్స్ ఇట్స్ లింక్ టు ద క్రికెట్స్ మాట. సో మెయిన్లీ సో ద హార్ప్ అండ్ ద మిర్రర్ స్ట్రక్చర్స్ యాంప్లిఫై ద సౌండ్. దట్ ఇస్ రీజన్. కన్జర్వేషన్ స్టేటస్ ఇంకా కన్జర్వేషన్ స్టేటస్ ఏమీ లేదు, బట్ దిస్ ఫైల్ స్క్రేపర్ ప్రిలిమ్స్ కి స్కోప్ ఆఫ్ క్వశ్చన్ భయంకరంగా ఉంటుంది. అండ్ దేనికి రిలేటెడ్, దిస్ స్క్రేపింగ్ ఇస్ రిలేటెడ్ టు వాట్? సో దిస్ రిలేటెడ్ టు ద క్రికెట్స్ మాట, అది మనం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. సో క్రికెట్స్ కి రిలేటెడ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ టు అట్రాక్ట్ ది ఆపోజిట్ జెండర్, ది స్క్రేప్ ఇట్, లౌడ్ సౌండ్స్ మేటింగ్ కి యూస్ఫుల్ అవుతాయి. దట్స్ ద హోల్ పాయింట్. సో దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ ద స్పీషీస్ ఫర్ ద మంత్ ఆఫ్ మే. కాన్సెప్ట్స్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి. Habitats, IUCN status. If you remember that, you will get 1 or 2 questions for your prelims. June month 2025 వచ్చిన species ఏంటో ఒకసారి quick glance కొడదాం. First one, Portulaca bharat is a flower. So this is a flowering plant species with unusual morphological characteristics has been discovered in Aravalli Hills, Jaipur లో కనపడడం జరిగింది. So scope of prelims question is very high. Okay. Habitat located in semi-arid and deciduous ecosystem of Aravalli range. Semi-arid. So prelims question ikkada vastadi. Grows in rock crevices, rock and dry hill slopes lo ivi perugadam jarugutayi. This beautiful flowering species with a very rare morphological characteristics Jaipur lo kanapadam jarigindi. Next, morphological features are succulent plant with water storing tissues. Does it have water storing tissues and a question also? So that gives a prelims question. Concave leaves ki opposite ga untadi. Pale yellow flowers that turn creamish white towards the apex. So if you observe, pale yellow but lopala pale yellow untadi kani bayatiki vachinappudu whitish type lo tayarautundi. So presence of granular hairs on it, on stamen filaments, thick roots untai, likely aiding drought resistance kuda very useful. Conservation status provisional ga undi, data deficient. So that is the situation of this beautiful flower. It's called Portulaca bharat. Next, Eurasian otter. Idi mata. So recently Eurasian otter made reappearance in Kashmir Valley lo kanapadam jarigindi. It was considered to be extinct, but mali kanapadindi. Extinct anukunnaru for 3 decades. Therefore, this gives us hope of prelims question. Something which was considered to be extinct suddenly popped up, and that is Eurasian otter. So scientific name Lutra lutra. Very important for prelims. In the wide variety of aquatic habitats lo perugutundi, including highland, lowland lakes, river systems, streams, marshes, swamp of forests and coastal areas, independent of their size, origin and latitude. Found in foothills of western Himalayas as well as states of Goa, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. It is near threatened species. Extinct antunaru kani proof lekunde, but it came back again. Therefore, this otter is very important. Scientific name Lutra lutra, very catchy. Therefore, Moscow. So next, Karai camel. Idi mata, this Karai camel. Recently, National Green Tribunal, NGT valdi kabatti direct ga, it gives a huge scope of prelims questions coming from this particular rank. In a case involving threats to the Karai camels in Kutch region of Gujarat lodi. So that is in news. Rare camel indigenous to Gujarat, basically ga. ability to swim along Gujarat Lodi, the ability to swim usually 3 kilometers at a time and graze in mangroves. That's a highlight point. Kharai camels are adapted to deserts, salt pan, marshes and mangrove. They have been conserved by the Rabari and Fikarani Jat tribes. Therefore, this becomes a scope of prelims question. Which tribes protect them? The Rabari and Fakirani Jat tribes over 100 years. The Kharai camel milk is rich in nutrients and has therapeutic properties containing antibodies similar to human milk. Status: endangered species, therefore very important. Prelims ki chala important, but these tribes becomes the most highlight point for prelims. Which tribes protects these Kharai camels? Rabari and Fakari. Gurtupetukondi. So, ivi meer gurtupetukunte prelims ki upcoming prelims ki chala important.